People were counting on the 2026 Subaru Outback to be that upgraded, tougher, smarter version we've been waiting on. Instead, the early signs are looking a little messy. Hey guys, this is Scott from CarLandTV, and today we're breaking down the problems Subaru hoped you wouldn't notice until after you signed the paperwork. But first, do me a quick favor. Tap that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. It ain't required, but those clicks keep this thing rolling and make it easier for me to keep dropping solid car content straight to your screen. Now let's get back into it. Price hike and value. When I look at the 2026 Outback pricing, the first thing that jumps out at me is how fast this thing climbed out of the affordable adventure rig lane. Subaru killed the old base trim, so the new entry point is the premium, and that starts around $36,445 with destination, according to early test drives. That is a big jump from a 2025 Outback that started near $31,400, and dealer info on the old base had it under $30,000 before fees. You are staring at roughly a $5,000 to $6,000 climb just to get in the door, no cap. Move up the ladder, and it gets even spicier. Motor Trend and Car and Driver both peg the top Touring XT for 2026 at about $49,445. At that price, you are playing in the same sandbox as full midsize SUVs with more power, bigger towing numbers, or hybrid systems that crush it on fuel economy. Meanwhile, a 2025 Honda CR-V or Toyota RAV4 still starts in the low 30 seconds and tops out in the mid to high 30 seconds for most trims, and that is before we even talk about the RAV4 hybrid or CR-V hybrid, bringing better MPG for similar or less money. So yeah, the Outback still gives you standard all-wheel drive, good safety tech, and that outdoorsy vibe. The problem is simple. The price tag moved up into a new weight class, but the specs and size are still closer to a lifted wagon than a true midsize SUV. And value-wise, that gap is getting harder to defend. Carried-over engines and CVT. Powertrain is where this new Outback really starts to feel dated to me. Subaru kept the same basic setup, a 2.5-liter non-turbo flat 4 at about 180 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque, and the 2.4-liter turbo at 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet. Both are bolted to the same Lineartronic CVT and pushing around roughly 3,800 to 4,000 pounds of curb weight. Car and Driver flat out said that 180 horsepower is not much for a midsize SUV at that weight, and you feel that when you lean on the throttle. The turbo looks like the fix on paper, but the behavior is quirky. The Drive called out how the 2.4 Turbo Plus CVT combo in the outgoing Outback surges once boost comes in, and that it is tough to drive smoothly right away. Car and Driver's first drive on the 2026 model backs that up, saying the turbo power delivery feels lumpy and the CVT exaggerates turbo lag and creates a rubber band effect when you ask for more power. That is the same basic transmission and engine family, just with minor tweaks, so you can bet the character is very similar. On top of that, there is still no hybrid option. Subaru itself and multiple outlets point out that Crosstrek and Forester now get gas-electric setups, while Outback sticks to gas only, with combined fuel economy in the mid-20 seconds. Meanwhile, rivals like RAV4 Hybrid and CR-V Hybrid sit well into the 30 seconds for their fuel economy, with conventional automatics or eCVTs that feel smoother in normal driving. For the money this thing costs now, that engine and CVT package feels old. Floaty ride and body roll. When you actually drive this thing, the ride and handling kind of tell on it. Subaru set the Outback up with about 7 inches of ground clearance, soft springs, and long travel so it can handle rough roads and light trails without beating you up. That works if you live on gravel or are hitting forest roads all the time. On regular pavement, though, testers keep calling it floaty, with more body motion than you get in a lot of crossovers. Car and Driver's drives of the current-gen Outback talk about noticeable body roll in corners and a tall, slightly tippy feel when you push it a bit, and the new 2026 version is built off that same basic platform and layout. Steering feel is another thing that stands out to me. Reviews from outlets like Motor Trend and The Drive describe the steering in recent Outbacks as light and a little vague on center, which matches what owners say on forums. So, if you are coming from a sedan or even a tighter compact SUV, the Outback will feel more like a soft, lifted wagon with slower responses when you turn in. The higher center of gravity and curb weight, right around 3,000, 900 to 4,000 pounds on many trims, just reinforces that sensation. You get confidence on a dirt road, but on a cloverleaf ramp, it leans more than a lot of people expect. There is a trade-off here. Subaru clearly prioritized off-pavement comfort and clearance over sharp handling, and for some people, that is perfect. The problem for me is the price bracket they moved into. When you are spending close to mid-size SUV money, you are cross-shopping things that feel more planted on the highway and in fast lane changes. So if most of your driving is on suburban streets and interstate, that floaty ride and body roll start to feel less like a feature and more like a compromise. Some little quality concerns. This is where a lot of Subaru fans start getting nervous, and honestly, I get it. The 2026 Outback is riding on the same basic bones and tech as the recent models that already picked up some ugly patterns. You have that windshield drama from the 2020 to 2022 Outbacks, where owners complained that the glass chipped and cracked way too easily, and it turned into a class action. Once you throw eyesight cameras behind that glass, every crack is a bigger bill because you are paying for recalibration too. That is a nasty combo if you drive a lot of highway. Then you have the electrical side. Subaru has already dealt with a battery drain class action covering models like the Outback, tied to parasitic draw from modules staying awake when the car is off. Owners reported dead batteries after the car sat for just a few days, and the settlement hashed out extended coverage and software changes. Even with that, newer Outback owners online still talk about weird battery behavior, needing jump packs, or getting told by dealers to just drive more so the system charges correctly. For a vehicle at this price, that kind of quirk is exhausting, no cap. There are also low-mileage oil leak stories popping up on late-model Outbacks, including wilderness trims with drips on the driveway under 5,000 miles. It is not a widespread failure, the way the old ring land or head gasket stuff used to be, but it is enough to make you pay attention when the 2026 is still using the same engine family. Put all that together, and the picture is simple. The brochure looks polished, but the track record on glass, batteries, and some sealing issues means anyone buying this thing in 2026 needs to budget for more than just gas and oil changes. Tech hiccups. Eyesight on the Outback is one of those things that sounds great on the spec sheet. Subaru makes it standard, so you get stereo cameras watching the road, adaptive cruise, lane keep, pre-collision braking, all that safety stuff baked in from day one. No cap. On paper, that helps crash numbers and insurance ratings, and I respect that part of it. Once you start digging into how it behaves in real traffic, the story changes. There is already a lawsuit out there claiming eyesight can grab the steering or brake unexpectedly, especially when people are changing lanes or dealing with construction zones and faded lines. Owners also talk about overactive forward collision warnings and phantom braking on highways, where the car taps the brakes for shadows, overpasses, or a vehicle that is not actually in your lane. You can find NHTSA complaints and forum threads of folks saying they had to turn parts of the system off just to stop the random slowdowns, which is wild for something you technically paid for to make driving easier. Then there is the windshield angle. Those eyesight cameras sit behind the glass, so any crack usually means a new windshield plus a camera recalibration session at the dealer. That is extra time and extra money, on top of the cracked glass reputation the late-model Outback already picked up. Mix in driver monitoring cameras and constant chimes if you look away too long, and it starts to feel like the car is babysitting you instead of helping. If you love tech, you might live with it. If you just want a simple daily, this setup on the 2026 Outback is a lot to deal with. Outback's identity crisis. Big picture, the 2026 Outback feels stuck in the middle. Subaru leaned harder into that SUV look with the boxier front end, chunky cladding, and roof rails, but underneath it is still a long wagon with 2 rows and seating for 5. The current gen sits around 192 inches long and about 66 inches tall, with roughly 8.7 inches of ground clearance. So the 2026 model is basically playing in midsize SUV territory in terms of footprint while keeping the wagon layout. That used to be its secret sauce. Now it just parks next to regular crossovers and kind of blends in. When you look at what it is up against, the story gets rougher. The Hyundai Santa Fe, for example, gives you that true SUV body and available third row, more overall cargo volume with the seats folded, and a cabin that feels bigger inside. Toyota RAV4 Hybrid and Honda CR-V Hybrid are hitting around 39 to 40 miles per gallon combined, while a gas Outback sits in the high 20 seconds on a good day. those rivals also live in the same general price band for a lot of trims. So a shopper walking the lot is seeing similar or better space and way better fuel economy for about the same monthly payment. The weird part is who this thing is really for now. Old school Subaru people loved the Outback because it drove more like a car, hauled a ton of gear, and still handled trails on the weekend. With the newer styling, the softer on-road manners, no hybrid, and a price that chases bigger SUVs, the Outback starts to feel like it lost that clear identity. It still works great for the small group of folks who live on muddy trailheads or unpaved roads. For everyone else, the value and the mission feel a lot fuzzier.